Hey guys, Chris here from Carolot Farm. Although it is only the middle of September, we have leaves falling left and right. The weather has been very funny around here lately. It's been a little cool for this time of year and it's been very dry. So we're getting a bit of an early fall. I am just realizing that I don't think I ever gave an end of August update. Between the end of August and the first week in September, everything was just a mad dash around here. We had our big state 4-H horse show that we were getting ready for, and I was gone for a few days. But now that I'm back home and my horses are fairly settled, I do want to share some updates because things are always changing. What's new? I do want to share what my minis were eating in August because things were quite different. We had a new horse on the farm. Lady came to join us, I believe the first weekend in August. And I then pretty soon split my group into two. I had Sweetheart and Snuggles, and they were turned out here in our little side paddock that sits just below the garden. And then Lady was up in the front ring with the boys. We did that for multiple reasons, but one of the reasons was we didn't have a lot of grass because the weather had been very dry. And so with not much grass, I started feeding more hay. In total, it looks like I fed my horses 8 square bales of hay in the month of August. I opened 10. There were some questionable spots in some of them, and so I just removed those bales. I have found, unfortunately, that the hay that I bought last winter has had some questionable bales, and so I have to be really careful whenever I open a bale and get into it to make sure that it's clean and safe for my horses. Last month, we were sectioning the horses like I was telling you. I had the 3 in the front and I had 2 in the back. And we were doing that because, again, we had closed off our back field. We had sprayed it. It was resting. And so we were down really to 2 paddocks versus 3 larger fields. And what I have behind me here is where Sweetheart and Snuggles primarily were grazing. In the few weeks they were out here, it really was grazed very, very, very low. And it's resting now. We've got the gate closed off. The horses have been off of this field now for over a week. We need rain though. It's like it's resting and it's slowly greening, but we need rain really, really badly. And I think we have some coming this week. So this field, again, if I keep the horses off of it for another couple weeks with some rain, it should bounce back pretty good. As soon as I got home from the state horse show last weekend, a little over a week ago, my husband and I went ahead and we pulled up the back fence that was separating off the barnyard from the larger field, and we've opened it back up for the minis. That allowed us to mix the 2 groups together, which was lovely. However, here we are, the middle of September, and I'm already beginning to have slightly different thoughts on what might be best for my group. Mixing the herd went pretty well. You know, the 2 groups into one. That was pretty seamless. Everyone either kept their distance or got along. We didn't have any real issues, you know, no cuts or injuries to speak of. It was fairly uneventful, which is perfect. As a horse owner, you don't want your horses to get crazy and just too excited because that's oftentimes when someone gets hurt. So the integration of the whole group went well. After I integrated the horses all together, and they initially just had access to the back field, which we had just opened after it had rested for a month, there was a fair amount of grass, and the horses did not need hay. They were very happy just grazing. But after about a week, 5 minis on that one paddock or that one back field, I was finding that they just were needing a little something. And so I did start giving them a little hay. I've been watching Sweetheart closely. You know, when she and Snuggles were turned out in the back together, she was eating a little bit of hay and she was handling it well. However, after just reintroducing hay over the last couple of days, I do feel like I'm beginning to see signs of increased labored breathing, and I want to be really careful. I will share though that she does still have a good appetite. She's just quietly resting right now. The boys are eating some hay next door. She's still happy to go out and graze. But again, we really want to stop this inflammation and this beginning of another flare-up before it builds and gets worse. And so I'm really thinking like cutting all of the hay out is the first thing I want to do, and go ahead and supplement her hay with some sort of hay pellet because I don't have a lot of grass. You know, the fields are a little green, there's something to chase and nibble on. I think it's enough to kind of help their digestive system keep everything moving properly, but it's not enough grass to really be their primary source of forage. and so she'll need some sort of substitute. Another thing though that I'm doing for her right now in this moment, hoping to quiet things down, is I have switched over to giving her her antihistamine twice a day. She had been getting 4 pills in the morning and that was all, but now I'm giving her 3 in the morning and 3 at night, because now that she is getting a hay pellet, she is going to be having multiple meals a day, which makes it easier to give her that extra antihistamine. And that was a recommendation that the vet made as well. I have some very loud crows around the farm today, so forgive me if you keep hearing them. But what I'm going to do now is I am going to work to try to rake up all of this loose hay that you see in our backfield. And that is where I'm going to go back to putting Sweetheart and Snuggles for the next few days while we really try to quiet this flare-up that is just on the uptick. I think when she and Snuggles were back here initially, they seemed to fare really well, and so I'm hoping to go back to that. With Sweetheart, like I mentioned, we'll be supplementing her, hay with her hay pellets multiple times a day. And for Snuggles here, I will bring her into the feedlot probably and give her an opportunity to have some hay as well. So, Snuggles is doing really well. Her weight looks fantastic. She's a very easy keeper, and she's been an excellent companion for my mare. But I think that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go back to splitting my herd after having just put them together for the last week, because I am thinking that that's what Sweetheart needs for her asthma, is to be off the hay. And I think that Lady and the 2 younger boys, who are still a little leaner than Snuggles here, really need the hay. And this way I can hopefully meet everyone's needs to the best of my ability. You can see I have these piles of hay raked up just around the field. One, it's because it's hay that I don't want Sweetheart eating, but 2, it's old hay. And probably the horses wouldn't eat it, but I want to remove it from the field because when it rains this coming week, this old hay that's kind of laying on the ground can begin to get a little musty and moldy. And the vet was recommending that we really try not to have any old hay laying around that could pose any more issues for Sweetheart. So that's what I'm doing now before I turn her out here in this back field. I think keeping horses on a small acreage such as this is just, well, it has its own challenges. It's lovely, right? It's not so expansive that I can't keep up with it, but it does have challenges. And because we are limited to our space, which I think is a good thing for minis, I don't think they need giant fields, and huge pastures to be out in. But because we are limited to our space, it does mean that we want to do our best to try to rotate our spaces when possible to let them rest and recover from overgrazing. And with this current time and Sweetheart and her breathing allergy issues and, do I give hay, do I not give hay? With so many things constantly changing and just requiring us to really continue to modify what we're doing, I feel like it's this revolving paddocks, revolving turnout, pasture mate issue situations. And so every day is different, I feel, but I'm really working to again, accommodate everyone to the best of my abilities. I've now got Snuggles here and Sweetheart in the back field. We've cleaned all that old hay out, and so it's a pretty clean field. The run-in is nice and clean, and this is where they are going to spend the day hanging out. And then up front we have Rocky, we have Lady and Shenanigans. These guys are more than happy to share a stall and hang out together, so I know they'll be totally fine in this subgroup. And when it comes time to mix everyone back together, I know it will go smoothly because the horses did really well last week. No matter where you look here on the farm, it's just very clear that what we desperately need is rain. We need just regular showers, and hopefully we will be getting those this fall. But the last month here in Virginia has been very, very dry, and that just makes it really hard on the pastures. I hope you've enjoyed these updates. Things are always changing. What's new? I feel I always say that. But when you're working with animals and living on a farm, that's to be expected. But again, I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you find it helpful, because the reason we are making these videos is really, one, to chronicle this year so that we can look back on it and see all the things that we learned and figured out in our first year of miniature horse ownership. But we're hoping that it can be helpful to those of you out there who might be in a similar situation, or considering such. So have a great rest of your day. Check back soon and happy fall.